Sometimes, the most powerful moments in life begin with laughter, not the joyful kind, but the kind that cuts deep, the kind that underestimates, dismisses, belittles. But if you've ever been underestimated, then you know, that's where the fire starts. There was once a boy, no name, no fame, just a black boy from the wrong side of the tracks. He didn't have money, didn't have a degree, didn't even have a future, according to most. What he did have was a gift to feel pain that wasn't his own, to read it in the eyes of strangers, and know exactly where it lived in their bodies. One day he crossed paths with a woman, a millionaire, paralyzed not just in her legs, but in her faith. The world had handed her everything but hope, and when this boy walked up to her, dusty and hungry, and said, "I'll heal you for leftovers," she laughed hard, but what came next changed everything. Let me walk you through 5 truths from this story. These truths are not just about a boy and a woman, they are about us all, about rising when you're expected to stay down, about purpose, persistence, and the quiet power of belief. Purpose doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock politely at the door of opportunity and wait to be welcomed in. It walks in with conviction, even when the room is full of doubt. That boy didn't wait for the world to recognize him. He didn't stand in line for someone to certify his potential. He didn't collect approval slips or beg for validation. He just showed up. Because when something inside you burns brighter than the outside noise, you move, whether they cheer or laugh, whether they open the door or slam it in your face. He wasn't chasing fame, followers, or favor. He wasn't trying to impress. He came with no polished resume, no golden last name. He didn't wear a crown or carry a title. He simply brought himself, his heart, his grit, and a quiet promise he'd made when no one else was watching. A promise to rise, a promise to do the work, a promise to keep showing up when others would walk away. That's what purpose really is. It doesn't strut, it doesn't shout, it doesn't need a spotlight to matter. It whispers, "Go," and you listen. It pulls you forward when the world pushes back. It gives your hands work even when your bank account says no. It gives your feet direction even when the map is blank. And though it may arrive in silence, it leaves behind a noise so loud the world eventually stops to listen. The world may label you invisible, forgettable, unworthy. But if your soul knows you were made for more, that's all the permission you'll ever need. And once you move with purpose, something shifts, not in the world, but in you, and that changes everything. She was the millionaire. But he was the one with power, not the kind of power that screams from podiums or flashes from a gold watch. His strength wasn't loud, it didn't roar, it whispered, so quietly that only the wounded could hear it. While the world chased followers, fame, and fortunes, he chased healing. He didn't seek crowds, he sought one spine, one scar, one soul at a time. His mission wasn't to be noticed. It was to make sure no one else went unnoticed. He never stood in the spotlight, but he stood in the shadows beside the forgotten. When someone limped through pain, he didn't just walk beside them. He carried them. He didn't say much. But when he did, his words stitched torn hearts together. There was no glory in what he did, just grit, just grace, and the kind of courage that doesn't demand applause. That's what real strength looks like. It isn't flexing in front of cameras. It's standing in front of someone broken and saying, "You're not staying this way." That kind of strength doesn't come from lifting weights. It comes from lifting burdens. It doesn't wear a crown. It wears calluses, it bleeds, it sacrifices. It listens when no one else will. It stays when everyone else leaves. And when it's mocked, it doesn't flinch, because it knows something the world doesn't. Real power isn't proven. It's lived. It doesn't retaliate. It restores, and it doesn't win through domination. It wins through compassion. He never tried to impress her. He tried to help her, and in doing so, he did something money couldn't. He became the one she couldn't ignore, not because of his status, but because of his strength, the kind that moves mountains, not to be seen, but to make room for someone else to rise. That boy could have walked away when she mocked him. He had every reason to. The laughter in her voice wasn't innocent. It carried weight, the kind that aims to crush whatever good is left in someone. He could have turned his back, swallowed his pride, and let bitterness build the blueprint for his future. No one would have blamed him, but instead he knelt beside her and got to work. Not to prove anything, not to seek applause, but because something deeper inside him whispered, "This is who you are." That is power. Kindness is not a soft response. It's not the lack of options. It's choosing the higher ground when the lower one screams for attention. It's restraint in the face of cruelty, not because you're weak, but because you understand the value of your strength. Kindness is warfare. It disrupts, it disarms, it does what anger can't: change a heart without shouting, heal a soul without scarring it. When someone expects retaliation and instead receives compassion, something cracks in them. Their defenses falter, their judgment wavers, and for a moment they're exposed, not to harm but to healing. That laugh she gave him wasn't just skepticism. It was armor. It said, "I don't trust kindness. I don't believe in decency. I've seen too much pain to accept softness as anything but weakness." And yet, without raising his voice, without matching her mockery, he shattered all of that. He pierced her shield, not with pride or revenge, but with mercy. Because real strength isn't in dominating someone. It's in lifting them when they least deserve it. The greatest battles are often won without fists. They're won in the moments we choose grace when vengeance is easier. And that kind of kindness, they'll never see it coming. Pain is a classroom, not a sentence. Both of them carried it, wore it like invisible armor. His pain came in the form of hunger, deep, gnawing, daily hunger that mocked him every time he passed a bakery or watched others throw away what he would consider treasure. Her pain was different. Hers came wrapped in silence and stillness, paralysis that left her limbs frozen but her spirit aching to move. They were strangers, yet pain introduced them, not with comfort but with truth, not with ease but with clarity. In that moment neither one pitied the other. They saw each other. He didn't see a broken woman. He saw someone who had survived. She didn't see a poor boy. She saw someone who had refused to give up. That's the lesson pain teaches. It strips away illusions and reveals what's real. He learned that dignity has nothing to do with how much you earn or what you wear. It's how you carry your soul through the fire. She learned that healing doesn't always come with doctors or prescriptions. Sometimes healing comes through the hands of a stranger, or the eyes of someone who refuses to leave you behind. They met in pain, but they didn't stay there, because pain, when used rightly, becomes power. It teaches, it chisels, it shapes. It doesn't mean you're cursed. It means you're being equipped. If you're hurting today, don't rush to escape it. Ask what it's trying to show you. Maybe it's building your compassion. Maybe it's strengthening your endurance. Maybe it's giving you a message to carry into the lives of others. Pain never shows up without a purpose. If you listen carefully, your purpose might be hidden in the very wound you've been trying to forget. One moment can rewrite everything. She walked again, not just because of his hands, but because of his heart. The boy didn't just offer therapy. He offered belief, and belief is the most potent medicine in the world. Sometimes healing doesn't begin in hospitals. It begins in the way someone looks at you and says, "I see more in you than you see in yourself." That kind of love, quiet, stubborn, unshakable, can move what medicine can't. Her legs had given up. The doctors had stopped trying, but he didn't stop. He knelt beside her every day, not with money, not with fame, but with the kind of hope that doesn't need applause to keep going. Hope that shows up when it's inconvenient, stays when it's uncomfortable, and believes when no one else does. She had the world. Money, comfort, everything that glitters. But inside, she was a prisoner. Her body was frozen, and her spirit wasn't far behind. He had nothing. Just tattered shoes, hungry eyes, and dreams bigger than his circumstances. But where she was rich in possessions, he was wealthy in purpose. And sometimes that's all it takes. One person who doesn't need a reason to care, who simply chooses to believe in your future more than your failure. Together, they rewrote each other's destinies. He taught her how to move. She reminded him why he matters. It didn't come in a grand gesture. It came in leftovers, his only offer, but in that moment it wasn't pity, it was power, because every act of kindness, no matter how small, can become someone else's miracle. And sometimes, the most broken person in the room is the one who ends up doing the healing. So if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. Because the next moment could be the one that rewrites everything.